Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about a drama thriller film called Viral from 2016. Enjoy your viewing. One day, high school student Emma notices a guy she likes with another girl. Her friend Gracie makes fun of her, advising her to get to know Evan better. But she doesn't dare make the first move, especially since it's time to go to biology class. Suddenly, Emma receives a message from her sister and runs to her. She introduces her to her new boyfriend CJ, who recently broke his leg and is on crutches. Stacy notices her sister's eyes on Evan and calls him over, because they live in the neighborhood, so he can go home with them instead of taking the school bus. The sister's father teaches science at the same school, so he knows all three of them and doesn't mind taking the boy with him. On the way, the girl's mother calls them and promises to come in a few days. Their family has just moved to this town, and she still has some things to settle. Soon they arrive at their street and go home. Over dinner, an uncomfortable conversation about her parents' relationship arises. Emma doesn't quite understand what's wrong, but her father quickly changes the subject. After dinner, Emma contacts Gracie, who tells her that her mother got sick after a man coughed up blood on her in the elevator. At this point, a rock wrapped in a piece of paper with a funny note flies through Emma's window. Looking outside, she sees Evan and goes down to him. After the conversation, she unexpectedly kisses him on the cheek, which confuses him. Returning home, Emma sees her father in front of the TV, where a program about the same disease is on. She asks him about her mother, and he apologizes for being fired and now having to teach at school. However, he assures her that everything will be fine. The next day in biology class, the father tells us about parasites that live in human bodies. The worst thing is when they start to influence human behavior by taking control of the body. At this point, Gracie feels sick and leaves the classroom. Emma follows, but can't find her for a long time. Suddenly, she sees her friend lying on the floor and immediately calls for help from one of the students. The boy, noticing that Gracie is not breathing, asks Emma to find a doctor and tries to administer first aid. Suddenly, the girl opens her eyes and coughs up blood in the boy's face. Gracie is taken to the hospital, and Emma is examined by the school doctor. Answering the questions, she recalls that her friend's mother had recently returned from another city, and Gracie herself was constantly eating and complaining of a sore throat. Finding nothing wrong, the doctor discharges the girl. The father decides to send his daughters home with a neighbor because he has to meet his wife at the airport. Later, Emma tries to contact Gracie, but she does not answer. The girl goes up to her room and stands at the window, watching the city in panic. Suddenly, a terrible roar is heard, and a helicopter carrying a medical container flies right over the house. At this time, my father calls and tells me that he is not allowed to go home because the government has decided to quarantine the entire city. All roads are closed, and their mother is still at the airport. He himself is calling from a small shop where many of the city's residents like him have gathered. Her father asks Emma to stay inside. The girls look around the kitchen and come to the conclusion that they have almost no food. Nevertheless, they manage to prepare dinner, during which they watch the president's speech. He explains that the disease is transmitted by airborne droplets. At night, the girls hear some noises at the door, and they go downstairs and look through the crack. Someone is banging on the door, and then everything goes quiet. Emma is scared. She is sure that someone is outside. Stacy opens the door, but there is no one there. Suddenly, the door swings open, and CJ bursts in, scaring the girls. He laughs happily, and Emma recalls her father's words that they shouldn't meet anyone. But her sister doesn't listen. Emma goes to her room and tries to contact Gracie again, but her parents report that she is fine. However, in the comments there is a post by a stranger who says that the government is lying, and the disease is actually very serious. In the morning, Emma is woken up by the sound of engines. The Center for Disease Control is delivering boxes of ready-to-eat food, medicine, a rocket launcher, and masks to her home. In the message, doctors ask to report cases of infection, which only makes the teenagers laugh. Later, Stacy is going to a party and tricks Emma into going along. There, Emma meets Evan, and they go dancing. Tired of the loud music, the couple goes to the bathroom, where they have a frank conversation. Evan confesses his feelings for the girl. Suddenly, a scream comes from the wall. It's Stacy, who has caught CJ with another girl. Emma and Evan are trying to calm the scandal when the guy who helped resuscitate Gracie suddenly appears. He behaves strangely, looks sick, and then starts attacking the partygoers. The girls try to hide, but the infected man makes strange noises, finds them, and coughs blood on Stacy. He tries to attack Emma as well, but Evan appears and hits the infected on the head, knocking him unconscious. The girls return home. Later, Emma watches another video of the wrestler, who says that the virus is spreading at a tremendous rate across the planet, and the government is keeping quiet. In the morning, doctors come knocking on their door to check on everyone who is still in town. More and more houses are empty, and the houses of the infected are marked with a special sign. On the same day, the father miraculously manages to get through to his sisters. He asks them to lock the doors, not to talk to anyone, and reminds them of his gun. But the conversation is suddenly cut short. The TV is broadcasting news about the army destroying infected houses as a state of emergency is declared in the country. The sisters look for their father's gun, and Emma unexpectedly finds her mother's wedding ring. She thinks again about her parents' relationship, but Stacy reassures her. Finally, they manage to find the gun. At night, they see their closest neighbor, Mr. Tommy, firing a rocket launcher. Soon, the military arrives at his house, takes away his infected wife, and then the man himself. The sisters get in the car and drive to the exit of the city, but are stopped by a checkpoint. No matter how much they beg to let them through, the military do not give in. At that moment, a car rushes past. The driver tries to break through the barrier, but is simply shot. This forces the girls to turn around and go back. That same night, Stacy notices a lump on her neck. She pierces it with a heated needle and almost faints from the pain. Emma notices that her sister has an increased appetite, but she confesses that their parents are in trouble because Stacy caught their father with a student and told their mother about it. They decided not to say anything to Emma because they were afraid she wouldn't be able to handle it. This shocks the girl, and she forgets about her sister's strange behavior. Stacy starts coughing when suddenly someone knocks on the door. It's Evan, begging to be let in. As soon as he enters the house, an infected person starts banging on the door. The young people quickly put on their masks, and Stacy prepares a gun. The infected man breaks the window and rushes in. It makes strange noises, but due to its poor eyesight, it is almost close to them. Stacy eliminates the infected, but suddenly falls into convulsions herself, and a bloody stain appears on her mask. Emma and Evan lock Stacy in the bathroom to hide her from the military. She remembers the signs on the houses and leaves one on the gate herself. Stacy beats on the bathroom door, begging for food as she feels brutally hungry. In a moment of enlightenment, she asks Emma to leave, but she recalls their childhood, when her sister always protected her and refuses to leave the house. Recalling her father's science lessons, she sits on the roof and devises a plan to remove the parasite from Stacy's neck. Evan supports her and tells her how his mother was dying of cancer, so he knows how hard it is to lose a loved one. Meanwhile, CJ arrives at the house with a group of survivors who are about to leave town because the military has left. He hears Stacy screaming from the bathroom and goes to her. The girl lies to him that her sister and her friend are sick and have locked her in. CJ tries to open the door to let her out, but Stacy grabs his arm and drags him inside. Emma and Evan hear him screaming, run downstairs, and see the remains of his body and a bloody Stacy crying, claiming that the parasite made her do it. Emma realizes that she has to act. Despite Evan's persuasion, she puts sleeping pills in her sister's food and takes it to her. Stacy eats it, thanks her, and soon faints. They go into the bathroom and Emma begins the operation to remove the parasite. Suddenly, Stacy regains consciousness and, in a panic, pulls the parasite out of her neck. The next day, the local radio announces that the government has ordered the immediate evacuation of citizens outside the quarantine zone. Stacy is very weak and can hardly walk. Her sister checks her neck. The wound is almost healed, and she begins to eat in normal quantities. Meanwhile, Evan overhears the military talking about the upcoming cleansing of the city. He realizes that something terrible is about to happen and rushes to Emma's house. The girl goes into the kitchen and sees Stacy, with some tentacles coming out of her mouth. She screams in terror and wakes up. Suddenly, she is called by Evan, who has discovered that Stacy has disappeared, taking all the food left behind. They rush to find her and enter the house where she hid. There are traces of blood and dead bodies all around. In the dark, they look around by the light of a lantern and find a large group of infected people. They attack them, forcing them to flee upstairs. In one of the rooms, they find Stacy. Evan quickly closes the door, and his sister admits that she can hear the conversations of the infected, because the parasite is beginning to completely control her. She begs Emma to kill her, but she refuses to do so until the virus finally takes over. Stacy's eyes turn black. She screams and prepares to lunge at her sister, and at that moment Emma shoots her. Together with Evan, they escape through a window just as the military starts bombing the city. The couple manages to escape by jumping into a swimming pool. Later, they come to the same shop where their father last called and find a letter in which he tells them his whereabouts and asks them to find him. They find a working car, and the girl thanks Evan for his help. He promises to always be there for her, and they set off for Washington together. If you have watched the video so far, you should know that I am happy to have viewers like you. Thank you for watching to the end. Subscribe to the channel and follow the news. Klonsak Recapped was with you. See you soon.